Welcome to another edition of Access Higher Ed. I'm your host, Christina Wynn, Director of Marketing and Student Recruitment at Berkshire Community College. Access Higher Ed is a show focused on giving you all the things you need to know about higher ed here in the Berkshires and beyond. Today we're focusing on really some of that beyond stuff, and I'm joined by Eleanore Velez and Ceci Del Cid, both from Berkshire Community College, who are going to talk to us about a legacy of serving our diverse community. I say that with a smile because I called Eleanore before the show and I said, what should we name this particular show? And she gave me the legacy of serving our diverse community. So I think this is going to be a really rich conversation, and I'm excited to have you both on the show. So by way of introduction, Eleanore, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to BCC, how you came to the Berkshires.
Well, I'm originally from Mexico, and when I was an 11-year-old girl, I came to summer camp at the Chimney Corners YMCA, Camp for Girls. And I grew up basically every summer there, and I fell in love with the nature and the beauty of the Berkshires. And also I grew up as a staff person there, and eventually had a job there and moved to the Berkshires to work as the director of the youth travel programs. And so I brought my family, and we settled here, and eventually I was a host mother for a student, not Ceci, but of a program that Ceci was part of called the CAS program. And with that student, I became aware of BCC and a lot of the things that BCC had to offer, and I became a student at BCC. And then graduated, transferred to Mount Holyoke College. And as soon as I graduated from Mount Holyoke College, I got a job at BCC.
And you've been with us ever since.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you. Ceci, welcome.
Thank you. So I am originally from Guatemala, and I came to the Berkshires. It's going to be 20 years this summer as a part of what Eleanore is saying, the CAS program, which was the Cooperative Association of States for Scholarships. Which
Comparative Association
of States for Scholarships.
Of States for Scholarships.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
thank you.
it was a program that was funded by the U.S. government for Central American and Caribbean students, and it was kind of a program that strived to strengthen the links of friendship. So they took youth from rural areas in those countries and offered them the possibility to come and study college. So most of us came right after high school, so I came after high school to study my first 2 years of college in the United States as part of that program. I stayed for 2 years, which was the length of the program, graduated and left. I met someone while I was at BCC, and years later we got married, so I moved back to the United States. I transferred to Smith College in mid-2000s. Got my bachelor's, and then I went further to Yale University to do my master's degree. In that meantime, after a couple of years there, 4 or 5 years, 8, we decided to move back to the Berkshires with my husband. So I'm back at BCC now after some other work in the Berkshires with immigrants and refugees as well.
That's great. That's great. You both have such a rich background that you bring to not only our college, but our community at large. So I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about was that typically when you think about Berkshire County, often you think about folks who have maybe grown up in the region all their lives. But when you actually walk about and you come to the college, you see that the faces actually look a lot different than perhaps you would expect. And that's a great thing, right? It provides a really rich community full of great stories and great backgrounds. And I know you both have had the opportunity to work with some students who have some tremendous stories, and wanted to ask you to share just a couple of the experiences that maybe you had that stick out with you over the years of students who maybe didn't know that BCC would be a home for them, or maybe didn't have this, necessarily think they had the support to go to college, but yet found themselves really striving.
Well, I think number one, the community colleges have always been the gateway to higher education and to access actually to some kind of a middle class lifestyle since the very inception they had in the 1920s in California and in the early 60s here in Massachusetts. So I think every day, every time you go to a community college, you'll see people who are changing their lives because there's access. And in the case of the immigrant community, obviously it's the same kind of opportunity, but in a different territory. If you grew up here, you kind of understand how things work. And you're raised to aspire to certain things, but when you're an immigrant, you're learning everything is new, the neighborhood, the language, everything. So working with recent immigrants is quite exciting just because you need to navigate the system. And for example, the time when I met Ceci was, I think, a perfect example. I was at the Latino Festival.
Yeah.
I was just graduating from BCC, and I was thinking, should I go to Smith? Should I go to Mount Holyoke? I don't know. And there was Ceci with the church, right? With St. Joe's.
St. Joseph used to have the first Spanish masses, and we were just stable in as part of the ministry for Catholic ministry.
So she was there with somebody that I knew, and we started talking, and she's like, oh, I went to BCC. Oh, I'm at BCC. Yeah, I'm going to go here, you know. So it's so simple, but to know somebody who has done something that you want to do and that you don't know how to do, it's a big difference. So we just met in that moment. She's like, yes, I applied to Smith. So she gave me advice, and freely.
$5. No charge.
And but I think that's the most important thing, to find somebody that helps you connect the dots, because it might be relatively simple, but when you don't know, and it's intimidating. Sure. And I think anybody who has gone through the process of applying to college knows it's intimidating. So just to know somebody who went the same route that you took is very helpful. And I think that's what we do now. We went through it, we know how it works, and now we tell other people. I always say it's like, we don't have to play Marco Polo. You know, nobody has to be blindfolded here. The process is not supposed to be a mystery. Mm-hmm. And I think we're there to help anybody who comes to the doors of BCC, whether they're first generation or fifth generation. Who cares? You're a student and it's new for you. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
It was funny because when I came, I did all the application process as an international student to a specific program that BCC was partnering with. So they had a cohort, a previous cohort, a cohort that came after. So we were part of a network of students that were already there. But everything, as Eleanor was saying, was new. I remember the first weeks we spent time like learning to use the B-bus. Like they dropped us in all parts of the city, and the goal was to see which team made it back to BCC faster.
So it was a challenge.
It was a challenge, and a lot of people, you know, had to be picked up along the way because they missed the transfer, or like. But even those things, like using the transportation system in a new city, a lot of the students that came didn't speak English, so we spent the first semester taking English as a second language back then in ESL. But I remember I was in a host family that also had a friend from Bulgaria. She wasn't a part of the group, but she was an international student at BCC. She had applied to Smith College from Bulgaria, and she hadn't gotten in. Her sister had. So what she did is she moved to the Berkshires. She went to BCC and reapplied as an international student to Smith College. But I had never heard of a Smith College. And the same thing that Eleanor is saying, someone knew. So she took me in the visits that she did to the school. She was also applying to Mount Holyoke. And I even remember, I don't even know why other people invited me to Mount Holyoke. There was a Guatemalan student there. And people offer you those things. And I had never had to apply to college as an international student, but I did it. I did it when I went back home, and then I did it again when I came here. And having those connections with someone that has walked the path and that can hold your hand a little, but really encourage you that why not? Why not apply? But I mean, and everything from writing the essay to completing the FAFSA to, for someone that was a new, kind of in a different status from a student to a resident, to like have to file taxes, have to, you need your taxes to complete your FAFSA. Like, what is a promissory note? Oh, I'm obliged forever. I sign my life away. So those things that usually parents guide children. I was a non-traditional student, Southern. So I had to be responsible for all my financials. So I went to a program that was dedicated for non-traditional students. I looked for a college that had that support because I knew I had to work. I was commuting, so I didn't live on campus. I was going back and forth. So there's always options. And I think a lot of the students that we met have access to, like, have those questions and don't know that there are those options.
I think you make a really good point about the importance of building relationships here in your community and learning from people who have maybe gone before you, right? And take cues from them and take tips from them. If you were a student, perhaps, who's maybe not first generation, new to America, but maybe they came with their parents, right? And they've been living here in the Berkshires, but their parents haven't gone to college and they don't know about the process. What are some things that you have recommended that they start thinking about and start doing so in order for them to be successful?
Well, I think, if you're a local high school student, the first support system that you have outside of your home is your guidance counselors, right? They'll help you start preparing for the process. And I think, take advantage of their services because they want to do it to help you. And one of the things that I love about BCC is that we have very close relationships with our guidance counselors. So not only are they helping the students from the high school side of things, but they allow us to work with them. Also, if anybody, because I'm also a parent, my kids just started going to college, and I know that it's a very easy thing for me to say it as an admissions counselor, but it's a very different thing to do it as a parent. Doing the FAFSA is intimidating for anybody.
Remember, FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. Yes.
So it's intimidating, but we have great financial aid staff at BCC who will walk people through. So number one, don't be embarrassed to say, I am intimidated by the process, because we know it's intimidating and we're there to help. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Most places have checklists. So find out what's the checklist, which are the procedures, what do I need to do first? And if I don't find a checklist, ask. Is there a checklist? Can you help me figure it out? Or make it up. But don't be intimidated. I know it seems like an intimidating process, but it's not. And if you have somebody who's willing to hold your hand, great. And if not, we're there. That's what we're there for. We're not there to see you bump your head against the wall and fail. We want you to be successful. It's not a labyrinth. It's not a riddle. It's not a test. We're here to help you make it happen.
I think also conversation with parents are important.
Yeah,
you have to consider financial situations. You have to consider family realities. You have to consider experience in doing the process. So I think also sitting there and meeting with parents and letting them know that we are there for them as well. I've met with some families that have gone to sessions. Their children are going to other institutions sometimes, and they have gone to sessions that include financial aid or sessions for admissions, and then I still come home and be like, I still don't know what I'm doing. We can help. And or students say, I'm unhappy at the university I'm going. What can I do? Can I come to BCC? And I say, yes, come to meet. Let's meet in my office. Let's see what is it that is not working. Let's figure out how we can help you. Lay out the foundation so that wherever you go, you are going to have a successful career. I love learning, and I think that is one of those experiences in life with every day you go somewhere, you do something new. There is very few periods like that in our lives. We have kind of peaks and a lot of valleys, and college time is that time when every semester brings new challenges, every class brings new learning. So it's constant growth.
Yeah, that's a great point. For those folks who are just joining in, this is Access Higher Ed. I am Christina Wynn, Director of Marketing and Student Recruitment at Berkshire Community College, joined by Ceci Del Cid and Eleanore Velez, both also of Berkshire Community College. And we're talking about our diverse community and how not only the college, but you all as individuals have found ways to work within the community and through partnerships, through events and things like that. And wondered if you could talk just a little bit about some of those events and partnerships that you've participated in and maybe a couple that are coming up.
So, well, we talked about the Latino Festival, and that has been happening for a while in October. Usually
September.
October, early
Founders-
October, late September.
In the fall.
In the fall.
Founders Weekend in Lee.
The Founders Weekend Day in Lee, and it's become a wonderful event. But we usually have a table there, and we bring pictures of our students who have graduated or who are students there, and some of our students are there, and it's become kind of like it's really a community event where you see people that you know and you recognize, and then you say, hey, if they were able to do it, can I do it? How do we do these? I think it's a great way to connect. We do also what was it called today? The ethnic fair.
The ethnic fair,
The ethnic
right?
fair, I'm so
In
sorry.
Pittsfield.
Yeah, in Pittsfield, which is very exciting. And as you know, it's a very old tradition. I think it's very important for me to say that Berkshire County has a long history of receiving immigrant groups, whether they were Irish, Polish, French,
Chinese.
Canadian, some German here, Russians, Chinese,
Guatemalan, Mexican,
Guatemalan,
Latin
Mexican,
American.
Ecuadorian, Indian,
African
from West Africa. So the Berkshires, while it's not the largest magnet of immigrants, because we have to be realistic and compare ourselves to others, has a lot of great potential for people who want to work hard, who believe in community, who appreciate the beauty of the environment, and who have hope for themselves and their neighbors. So that has been one of the magnets that has attracted people to the Berkshires. And the same way that BCC serves every other citizen of our community, it serves our immigrant community as well.
So talking again about some of the events that are coming up, we have a march this Saturday, the Four Freedoms Rally and March, which is taking place in Norris Street in Pittsfield from 12:30 to 2. And then there is like table-in and some other information of the organizations in the First Congregational Church in Park Square. We're also having a Know Your Rights event next week on the 12th at BCC, and the Kusibitskis are the theater, 111 at 5:30 with the Berkshire Immigrant Center and Mira, which are talking about the immigrant community and what to expect now with the new administration, and to kind of like inform our communities. We have also done other outreach, I think, to other communities like Adult Learning Center, like I think other organizations
Literacy
like
Network.
Literacy Network.
And I just want to mention that because we recognize and welcome and appreciate the diversity in our community of all kinds. For example, a very important event that will be taking place on January 16th is the MLK Day, which will be the 4th time I think we do it, or the 5th time.
The Martin Luther King Day.
Martin Luther King Day of service.
Service learning,
Yeah.
right? So, okay.
And so I think that's when all of us go out and roll up our sleeves and work together to make sure that we contribute to our neighbors. And those are the values that stand out the most for me and make me very happy to work at BCC. I've seen students who come from very, very diverse backgrounds with very big challenges and have had to overcome not only the ESL or the navigating the system, but the pain and the suffering of being removed from your family, from being aware from everything you know, but knowing that through higher education, their lives will be better. And I think our story is not unique. We're not special. Every year we see people graduating and continuing their journey in very interesting and exciting ways at a wide range of other four-year colleges. So we're just a little sample of a lot of great stories of what happens at BCC.
That's right. What I think is most compelling about some of the stories that you've shared and the experiences that you've shared relates directly back to our name. And I always love to say that community is our middle name at Berkshire Community College. And so there's this a huge emphasis, of course, on high quality academics and programs and getting people the skills that they need to go on to other schools or to get a job or to just to sort of achieve their dreams as well. But this sense that we're part of a community of thinkers and doers and innovators and inventors, and there's a group of folks who really want to find ways to make improvements and to come together. And I think some of the things that you've talked about in terms of events that are coming up and that things that we've participated in the past have really shown that this really is a community that really loves to find ways to work together in a very collaborative way.
Yeah, and I think, we were non-traditional students, but obviously BCC graduates a good number of traditional students. Among our first generation immigrant students, we have a lot of young people who are choosing to make their home the Berkshires, who are settling roots here, who love it here. And I think they're very important contributing members of our community in many ways. And I just find it very exciting to see our students come back for like Thanksgiving or Christmas break after they finish their semesters at RPI, whether it's UMass Amherst or UMass Lowell. And they're just doing great. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting. And working in local businesses after they graduate, it's just really exciting.
A little bit of a homecoming and a reunion.
It's exciting.
One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we talked about, and you had mentioned this when we spoke, was sort of the thought of students coming to college, particularly students who are perhaps first generation or immigrant families, and tuition, and what they should be thinking about as they kind of take that leap into college.
So we are a state college, and we have to follow certain rules. And so, for example, in Massachusetts, and Ceci has the chart, if you're a Massachusetts resident, you pay a certain fee. If you're a non-Massachusetts resident, then you pay another fee. For example, we have a fee for New England and New York residents, and then we have another fee for out-of-state residents. So if you are a Massachusetts resident, that means that you've lived in Massachusetts for the last 6 months and you're an American citizen or a green card holder, you'll pay that fee. If not, the fee will be different. So international students who come here with a visa, for example, instead of paying $205 for a credit, they pay $439. So a 3-credit class will be for them $1,317, while a Massachusetts resident pays $615. And I think this is very important because some people are not very happy with immigration. Some people think that some people are taking advantage of the system. As far as I'm concerned, I know that our international students pay a higher tuition.
Sounds like significantly higher if you
Yes.
were to compare a $1,000 course for an international student based on a state student who was receiving $600 for
And
the
if
course.
you're not an American citizen, you do not qualify for financial aid.
That's
you
right.
do not get the FAFSA. So for international students who have a visa, they have to go through a very rigorous process where they do not only apply to the college, but they have to apply to Homeland Security and the U.S. government for a student visa, and they have to provide proof that they have the means to cover their expenses. When it comes to first-generation immigrant students, well, if you're a first generation and you live here, you are from here. We talk, the word immigrant seems like far away, but if your parents were born in a different country and you were born here, you're an American. You might be Mexican-American, but you're an American. And so they pay the tuition that they have to pay. Then we also have mentioned prior to this talk, there are some students who came to the country without documentation, and they have grown up in this country, and they have, by all means and purposes, been good people. And under President Obama, there was executive action called DACA that has allowed students who came to the United States before of the age 16, before the year 2007, who graduated from the local high schools, who have no criminal record, no strikes against them, but the fact that their parents brought them to this country without documentation to as children, yes, as minors, to come to college without much fear. They have had permission to get a driver's license, a social security number. They had to go and report to Homeland Security, so they have been fingerprinted. We don't know if this is going to change, But as far as we're concerned, we have a very few students who qualify under DACA, and they're coming to BCC, and they are going to other colleges all over the United States. And if they could, they become American citizens. It's just outside of our control. But
Right. So the DACA program, which is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which is what DACA stands for, is really an effort to allow children, students who have been essentially raised in the United States but perhaps not born here, to take advantage of some of the in-state tuition benefits that students who are coming from other countries are not taking advantage of, as
No.
we discussed earlier.
And DACA students do not qualify for FAFSA. So they are, so let's
Which is
say,
the free application for federal student aid.
so let's say I came to America when I was a 5-year-old kid thinking I was going to go to Disneyland. And for whatever reason, my family decided to stay here. As far as I'm concerned, as a child, I just went to school. I grew up. One day, I'm graduating from high school. I don't know my legal status. Nobody's thinking about their legal status. And so if you were that child prior to 2012, when President Obama passed DACA, it was very difficult to go to college, to get a driver's license, to get a social security number. Now they can do that. And it's all through a legal process. And they have to pay penalties, by the way. It's not free. And they are really fingerprinted. Their police background checks are done. So we know that they're essentially not bad people. And now they can continue with their life. We don't know how far they can continue with their life in America, to be honest. But for now, they know they can go to college.
Great.
And that's important.
And I really appreciate you both being here on the show. We have just a couple of seconds left, so time flies when you're having fun, and always enjoy having you on the show and talking about the community and the passions that you bring. So thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You should have us back again.
We will have you back again. That's another edition of Access Higher Ed. I'm Christina Wynn. Thank you so much.